Well, looky there. We are live with week 1 recap of our 2021 5-year football fantasy football league. I'm your host, OU Flag Guy, and tonight we are joined by Mr. Champion himself from not one, but 2 of our fantasy leagues, Mr. Joshua Prime. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. How
Good,
about
good. I'm doing pretty good. I think Justin's going to be joining us just a little bit later with it, so we'll be on the lookout for him. If not, hey, we got the Josh and Josh show at this point.
There you go.
Y'all are all in for a treat. So, Josh, we're going to get into everything fantasy football, but I want to get out of the way your stuff first with it, because for all of our members watching in our league, what we want to do is kind of highlight people who've been in this league for not many years, but like for the past couple of years, and just kind of highlight a manager of the week. So, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself, just in general. Who are you? Maybe there's some people who haven't seen your face before.
I'm Josh, the other Josh.
No, you're
Uh,
Josh Prime. I'd be the
Josh
other
Prime.
Josh. I'm
Okay.
younger.
Okay. All right. So I guess Josh Prime. I live in Norman. I grew up in Tuttle. If anyone knows where that is, there was a certain OU football player that came from there, won a certain Heisman.
Yeah, some weirdo that sells air conditioners, just like we have a coach who was a tequila peddler. So,
Yeah, yeah. I actually went to high school with Jason White. Um,
really? You never
yeah,
told me that.
and he was when I was a sophomore, he was a senior. There's a couple interesting stories I could tell you about him.
Good, bad. Would it regret me calling his air conditioning company to come fix my air conditioner?
I don't think they're anything like that spicy, but
Gotcha.
yeah. One thing. This is kind of maybe getting off subject a little bit, but
No,
I
no, that's why we're here.
yeah he so in high school because I was in band,
Hmm.
and so I was at all the football games back then, and we had a nickname for Jason White. At least in some of the student bodies
Mm.
and a small portion of us, he was 1 inch whitey because for 2 years in the playoffs, we lost a playoff game because he fumbled the ball on like the 1 yard line.
Oh, that's a
Going
bummer.
in right at the end of the game, fumble the ball. Yeah, we call him 1 inch
Poor
whitey.
dude.
But
Oops.
you can't really complain. I mean, he did everything. He was the quarterback. He was the punter. He was the kicker. Sometimes a receiver. He's even sometimes played on defense. So for Tuttle back then, that was
Yeah, so he was like the all-American player for y'all at that point.
yeah. Hmm.
That's okay. I've never heard that story. I always enjoyed hearing the stories like that because he threw some interceptions back in college, but he never really fumbled. Like Bob may really like got that out of their system really fast.
Yeah, he when he was in high school, he was way more mobile, but some leg injuries will do that to you.
I mean, when you blow out both your knees like 5
Yeah.
times, that kind of does it a little bit.
Yeah. I remember one year when he was a senior, I was walking down the hall, and I guess he's Jason White. He's hot stuff, right? He is the football team. And I remember the English teacher, the senior English teacher, who's coming out of class. I don't know
Just a
what
little bit.
happened.
I've got
I don't know what caused this, but I remember he's walking down the hall, and the English teacher comes out. I was like, Jason, why you can't just do whatever you want? And he was like, he just was storming off. I was like, I don't know what that was about. Just stay out of it. Oh, but yeah, I grew up in Tuttle. I just living in Norman,
Mhm.
working at Dell, living the dream.
Well, Tuttle's program has been still pretty good for the most part, if
oh,
anything,
so
Yeah,
I just from what I've been seeing. I mean, they've actually been like one of I don't want to say the exact top program, but like in their own class, they've been pretty much been decent for their own most part. But of course, they've been struggling within like the quarter of the semis, if anything, and that's been pretty much about it.
Yeah, and part of that is they've moved up. When I moved there, 5th grade,
They were like 3A, if I'm not
3A, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they had just moved up from 3A before I guess they were like 2A or something.
Yeah, but before they moved up to 4A. I mean, I've kind of kept an eye on them for the most part. I mean, right now, if anything, I've just say this, like the dominance right now in the last 10 years, in 4A has gone to Wagner. And I'm going to just be honest with you. That Wagner squad, has been brewing for some times in the last few years, because I've actually seen them play, because they were an old district foe when I was going in high school and everything. And, there was a tough bunch. It really was. In fact, there was like, they said they had like one guy that was signed up for OU at the time, but that was like back in 07 or 08 by the name of Gus Jones. But I guess he never really got a chance to really be much on the field or anything else like that. But man, that dude was a baller.
Yeah.
If anything. Yeah, he was. Yeah. So that's kind of another topic for another time.
Well, you're speaking of, first off, Gavin, everybody who is watching at home, other members of our league joined. Gavin, good to see you again. We usually see you on Sunday, so it's good. Hey, he's a member of the Fantasy Football League. And Justin, my co-host for this one. Justin, how are you doing tonight?
Stand by, please. Hang on a second.
What was it? Oh,
hang on a second.
Okay. He's getting acclimated.
Hold I thought. Try to get my headset my headphone, my Raycons connected.
Now, are you getting your headset connected, or are you trying to catch a Pokemon?
No, I'm actually trying to get my Raycons connected, but I keep forgetting Raycons computer.
Okay. So, using Gavin's example, though, Josh Prime, I do have to ask, how does it feel to be what I would consider in our league a blue blood? You've won the championship twice in our first year and last year. Do you contribute it to your skill? Do you contribute it to luck? Do you contribute it to me losing to you? What do you contribute it to?
For me, I don't know. I think it's a lot of luck, because you can pick the players, but you never know what's going to happen. And I'm not like the greatest person in drafting, but I think it's just managing it, and then you need luck. You got to end up right. Because what was it last year? I think in the championship game, we were scoring way fewer points than some of the non-championship games that were going on. So
absolutely. Well, and it makes me jealous, because that was the one time out of the year that I had my lowest score. If I would have won during that week, I would have faced you in the championship game and probably won. But yeah, it happens. That's the nature of fantasy. Like there is strategy to it. So speaking of that as well, how do you feel about your draft this year? And what is your usual strategy drafting when you are not the championship person? Does it really come down to where you're on the board, what players are available, or are there players you stay away from? Or players that you have to get every single year? Like, I have to mention her every single time, Sarah and Tom Brady. We all know that's what Sarah goes for.
My strategy generally, because I've never been high in the draft, I've never been up one of the first people. I know everyone up there likes to grab a named running back right off the bat. But because running backs tend to get injured so quickly, it's like if I was drafting up high, I'd probably be more likely to oh yeah, I need that too. And I think this time I would draft 12th, so I draft last. So I went ahead. I did get a running back. And maybe I should have thought this through about who I nabbed, but sometimes I don't. But then I grabbed a quarterback next, and I kind of wish I had thought that through a little bit more.
Well, and it's as Justin and Gavin have both told me to, it varies so much from year to year. Like one year, I think it was our very first year. I see the DS. I think it was our first year, Justin, if you recall, somebody had Ezekiel. And Ezekiel was like suspended like the first 6 games, but then he just railroaded and caused that individual to get into the playoffs solely because he was back by week 6.
I think I remember that.
I think it was Daniel, one of our older members, who since has exited the league from it just because of other stuff going on with it. But you just don't know. Or like, I feel bad it was during a work league many, many, many years ago, like 2011 or 2012. I don't know what year it was off the top of my head. A friend of mine was so proud that he drafted Adrian Pearson, and that was the year he got injured. Wasted his number 1 pick. So upset. Yeah, it's just the nature of fantasy with it. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Just like, look at Dallas right now, poor guys. Or who is it? What's the team that Justin or Gavin? What's the team that Bell is on right now? I think it's Baltimore, right?
Baltimore, yes.
Baltimore.
Yeah, they're out like their 3 running backs right now, like their starters, and they're just trying to hire somebody. Free agency.
They brought in Latavius Murray. They brought in Le'Veon Bell. I think they signed Devontae Freeman to the practice squad. They lost J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards.
Yeah. So it just varies. So speaking of luck as well, Josh, for you, what has been your favorite team that you've named? What has been your all-time favorite
team?
Yeah, from the
team.
Yeah, any team that you've played. Like, is there one that's fond with your heart? Is there one that you remember very fondly about, or it's your favorite just in general because of that year, regardless if you win or lose with it?
You're talking about fantasy team.
Yeah.
Ugh. You know, the first year, who did I have? I ended up getting. Who was on that team? Was it Hunt? I think it was the Kansas City's running back. Somehow he was like, I think that was his first year, or I remember I just picked him up and he ended up being like a phenomenal running back, just like out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that. He was like scoring so many points. But aside from
that was that luck year. Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't know if I have just like fond memories of any particular team.
What about favorite team name that you come up? Because you come up with pretty creative ones every year.
I'm pretty fond of the Jawa Juggernauts.
Yeah. That was our start. That was our, I think, year 2 or year 3 theme was Jedi versus Sith.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm surprised you didn't pick the Krakens.
Well, I like them too.
Well, they won you that trophy, so of course you like them.
Yeah. Although, what was it? The Detroit Dysentery. That was pretty good last year's name.
I think we all had creative names last year. That was fun.
Oh.
Pandemic theme is also fun.
Yeah.
What now? Going real life. What about what made you an OU fan? Is it just because of the area with it? What because some people root for other teams and stuff. Anything like that? And do you watch other sports?
I don't watch much other sports. College football was always my thing. Now, when I was little, I didn't really pay attention to football very much.
Mm-hmm.
I played baseball when I was younger, but I think I developed a love for football when I was in middle school. Part of it was because I was in band, so I would be at all the games. And at first, I was like, I don't know the rules, but and then I fell in love with it. I'm like, this game is awesome. I love it. And so that kind of transitioned to college because my dad was always a big, huge OU fan.
Yeah.
So, I kind of heard the stories and got to see some of that. And so then when I really started, getting into it, I started learning the history of the Oklahoma football program. So this is actually kind of really cool because they wanted to build something that the state could be proud of.
Yeah.
And so that I kind of fell in love with that. And so that's why I follow. That's why I love it. Pros, it's like I can watch a pro game, but never really fell in love with the NFL or any of the pro games. I'll keep up with the NBA just because Oklahoma City has a team.
Gotcha.
But it's just kind of a casual.
Mostly college at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then what's your prediction for this Saturday? What do you think for OU facing Nebraska?
It should be a blowout. But
Give us your
that
prediction.
That being said,
There's no wrong answer with it.
I really want to predict a blowout, but I just have a feeling that I think this game may be closer than it should be. If I had to, I don't know an exact score, but something tells me maybe I think the line yesterday was 20 something points. OU
23.
23.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
I think it might be under on that. I don't know. But OU should come out there. If they show up, it should be a blowout. I just don't know, because there's a bunch of question marks about this team that the offensive line. If the offensive line can they gel and get to come together and be the unit that we know they can be, The other thing that worries me is that traditionally OU has had a problem with mobile quarterbacks when other teams don't. I don't know what it is in the past. So,
well, we do have the turf monster too on campus. So I mean, that does happen. I got 3 more questions for you, Josh. So the first one for that is your favorite. What's a random fact about yourself that nobody else in the league knows? Random fact.
A random fact.
A random fact.
A random fact. What's something? Well, it would have been, hey, I went to high school with Jason White, but I already mentioned that. Let's see. A random fact.
Any random fact. Yeah.
I love iced tea. I can drink iced tea all day. Any day.
Tea?
No,
Sweet tea
unsweet,
or unsweet?
Unsweet.
Oh, you heathen.
Well, okay. So here's the story behind that, right? So I used to drink Coca-Cola. I lived on Coca-Cola, and I would go to work, get up in the morning, stop by Sonic, get me a Route 44 Coke, go to work, be drinking on it all day, go to lunch, get another Coca-Cola, be drinking on it all day, and I start putting on a bunch of weight. And I was like, okay, not only am I putting on weight, this is very unhealthy. So
yeah, I
decided, okay, I need to start drinking something else. And so I decided iced tea is what I was going to do. So I started weaning myself off of Coca-Cola. I started drinking tea, and I don't know. I get fixated on one drink, and that's all I drink. And that's part of the reason I don't drink like beer or wine or anything, because I would just become a raging alcoholic. So
that's fair. That's fair. So here's my second question for you. Favorite tailgate food or football food? Themed food in general. Your number one or a good one? Yeah.
Man, if someone's got steaks, yeah. Hamburgers, I'm down for hamburgers. A cheeseburger or a bacon. No, even better, a bacon cheeseburger.
Oh, do you want the bacon on top of the patty or like in the patty?
I'll take it however. It doesn't matter. Bacon's delicious.
As long as Patty Wagon's making it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Now you guys are all making me hungry.
This is why I ate before. So, last question for you, Mr. Joshua Prime. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm going to say no. I mean, you could argue it. I don't know. I just feel like a hot dog is in its own category.
Okay. Justin, do you have one question for Mr. Joshua Prime, as he is our member of the week that we're giving fun little questions to? Any question, and if not, that's fine.
What team do you project will be the worst team in the league this year?
For you talking about in fantasy, or are you talking about
just in the NFL?
Oh, in the NFL. Oh, in the NFL. Oh. I don't really know the answer to that because I haven't really been following it too well. Generally, you can pick the classic favorites, but I don't know. They may not be so bad. Because was it Detroit won last week? I think, or did they almost win or something?
They almost came back at the very end, but the 49ers tried to blow it.
Yeah, and then traditionally the Browns are always terrible, but I don't know. They're better. So
I just think with Cleveland, it's like, if anything, like I think Cleveland's going to be fine this season, but it's just one of those to where, how can you not go against Kansas City in their own place? That's the only issue I have. And it's like, and look, there's been a lot of people that are wanting to give like Baker a lot of crap and everything, but it's like, he did pretty decent, other than that one pick, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not exactly his fault the punter dropped the ball.
Yeah, so it's like, and this is what I tell people. It's like, it's like, I would say Baker's more like of a good system quarterback, not a like top overall like with Brady or some of the others or anything. But he does well, to where, it manages the game itself. That's kind of where I look at, at Baker's, strength of anything, within the last couple of years that they have. Mahomes, he is just a baller. I mean, it's hard to go against Mahomes at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is like Air Raid 2.0.
It is funny you mentioned that, Gavin, because be thinking on your question too. If you have one question for Mr. Joshua Prime, but it was funny for the individual of name I will not speak on this live stream. He released his like top 5 like game of the centuries, and he had OU versus Tech in 2016 when both teams were singing. I'm like, bro, you and I were watching 2 different games because that was a horrible game. There was no defense at all. That was who could throw the ball the furthest and have the ball last. I don't know what game y'all were watching.
Yeah, but the thing is that that 2016 game with OU versus Texas Tech, you had basically 2 different sort of air raids. One of them was more of a balanced air raid to where they spread the box and you had like 2 power backs, one with Samaje Perine, the other one with Joe Mixon, where Joe Mixon just sort of lit up in the backfield. And then, it's like, I kind of look at it, it's like Mahomes was just swinging the ball to where, and I'm not kidding you, threw for over 700 yards of total offense.
And he still lost.
And he still lost, which is so insane. And I think they actually tied the NCAA record for most points in the game, believe it or not, if I'm not mistaken.
The big problem is still, though, that the offense was fine, but there was no defense, so you can't call it one of those like best games ever when it wasn't.
But I will say, we've come a little bit along late. I would say a little bit better than what we have been in the last few years, but I just do not think OU Texas Tech in 2016 would definitely be called, quote, game of the century, end quote. Now,
not at all.
No,
not at all.
I just wouldn't. I mean, I would have to see his top 5, just to kind of get a good gaze on it. But because a lot of people always talk about like, and I'm saying like the first LSU Bama matchup in 2011. A lot of people talk about that, but that was a lot of like excellent defense and offense was not really much showed where, where it was just mostly relied on special teams. And look at the history with Alabama and special teams. I mean, it's somewhat been like, for me, a bit of a question mark. It almost seems like with them over at Alabama.
Yeah, but he had that on the list, but the offense was not present. You got to have a balance of it. Like Texas and USC, for example, that's a good game of the century.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say Texas USC would probably be on that list because there was a lot of good, bounce on offense defense back. That I think that if I remember, I can't remember where it was in the game, but it was like in the 4th quarter. It was basically a 4th and 1, and they decided to run the ball, and like Texas is like 45 or 44, if I'm not mistaken, and Texas stuffed them. And, Texas basically responded with that touchdown by Vince Young.
Right. Right.
I think
maybe it had to be that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: like OU Nebraska in like 71, I think is definitely like, I think it's still pretty much considered one of the classics. Now, even though the defense was not as good as like some of the other defenses in the past, but it was still like somewhat defense, but OU's offense during that time was like number one, but Nebraska's defense was just on a whole nother level, if anything. And it was just a 4-point
They still
game.
should have flagged. They should have still flagged for that clipping. That being said, Gavin, do you have one question for Mr. Josh Prime?
Okay, you've already talked about Tuttle and everything else, for the most part. But I do have a question for you. Okay, what would probably be this is something that I would probably look at, your favorite game day ritual that you have?
He wears his favorite pair of underwear.
My favorite game day ritual, I like if I can in the morning. Now, I haven't been able to do this as much because I've been working Saturday mornings, but I actually like watching ESPN Game Day, kind of just getting in the football mood and watching people talk about college football. And then, Lee Corso, like putting on a crazy hat or helmet or whatever, seeing who picks. Yeah, that's probably it.
What about at the game? Do you have any game day tradition at the game?
I don't. I don't because I haven't. I mean, I'll go to like maybe one game a year, so I don't really get to, especially over the recent number of years, I don't get to go as often. I usually watch a lot of them on TV.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight. And hey, this stream, everyone, thank you for letting us ask you questions and stuff as well, and getting to know you a little bit, friend. We had to highlight, in my vision, week one was the number one, and number one was the winner last year was you. So you're more than welcome to stick around, Josh, because I know you mentioned you can stay all night with it. But hey, we're going to be talking about the fancy stuff, so stay as long as you want to, sir. So thank you still for coming on and everything like that.
No problem. I got some stuff I got to take care of, so I'm going to have to head out. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
See you, Prime.
Bye.
Gotcha. Bye. Let me then do that. That's perfect. So, all right, guys. So we're going to now dive right into like the weekly awards and fancy stuff. So, Justin, can you give me a recap, though, of the NFL? What noticeable things did you see from the NFL this week?
Well, half the games I watched were pretty much drunk at the end, especially in the Monday night game. I mean, either team wanted to win that game. Seriously.
They tried their best to lose it, but they did not have it. No,
overtime.
No.
Yeah, the overtime came to base the game down to who's gonna screw up less.
Yeah. Justin, for viewers at home that are watching, what happened Monday night? Give us a picture.
Well, think about this. The game went to overtime. I think it was like tied at 24, 27, whatever. And basically, what it looked like is the Raiders got like a 50-yard touchdown catch, but the guy was ruled down at the 1-yard line. It looked like they were just gonna punch it in to end the game, but of course they get called for a false start, which was back at the 6. And then they had one unsuccessful play. I think it was either second or third down where Carr tried to do the pass. The ball was tipped in the air and picked off by Baltimore, and it was a touchback. When they had the ball at the 1-yard line, it looked like they won the game. And you would think it'd be one of the situations where the air would completely go out the building. When it looks like it did, and the Baltimore was starting to drive, but the rush came on one of the downs. And Lamar fumbled the ball deep in their own territory. So it kind of felt like a lot of times one team screwed up only for the other team to get the ball right back.
That sounds about right for week one. My coworker, she had Baltimore's defense, and she said it seemed like for fantasy it was terrible if you started them, but for like in general the defenses did fine. That's what you would want out of the game. It's just the offenses could not get anything going.
Yeah, and one thing I'd ask the Green Bay Packers, what the crap was that?
I really do feel like Aaron Rodgers does not want to be there, and he's really going through the motions. I really do believe that. I really don't. I think he wants to end his contract, so there's whatever reason that he wouldn't get his full paycheck. I really do believe that.
Yeah, you can tell he does not want to be there.
I think the best game was Thursday night. Gavin, did you see anything from the NFL?
I mean,
any observations from this week?
Well, honestly, like And I've mentioned it before. You do not go against Mahomes in that offense for whatever reason. I mean, that is like one of the biggest steals. I feel like, if anything, I got to give props to Dak Prescott for the most part. Even though he came up short, going over 400 yards after coming back from a gruesome knee injury last year. I mean, it's like he never lost a step, if anything, in that game. So I got to give props to Dak Prescott.
Oh,
42
absolutely.
42 for 42 for 58, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Yeah.
He's the Brady that everybody had a couple years ago in fantasy games. He's a monster.
Even then, that 1 pick wasn't really his fault. I remember it was a dangerous pass to triple coverage, but it was right through the hands of CD Lamb.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's rare for CD to drop a pass like that. That is very rare. Just like it made me think on Monday night with Mark Andrews. It's the same thing. He had that passing. He just dropped it.
Wait a minute.
It happens. It happens. So from y'all giving the recap, I'm going to move now ahead to then, let's see if I can share my screen. We're going to start with the very first one, giving an update on the college football pick'em. Oh, go ahead. I
had to remember where CD Lamb played college. Oh, of course. He played Oklahoma. Okay.
Oh, yeah. He played at OU.
Okay. Yeah.
He should have won the Blicknikoff. Yeah, he should have won the Blicknikoff, but he did not. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, so if you can take a look, Gavin is a part of this one. Justin, I think you opted out for this year with one, but for something in addition, what was it?
I said I did, but go ahead.
Yeah. So for this year, I really wanted to do a college football pick'em as well. There we go. Couldn't speak. So that's for a lot of people who we have plenty of people who have NFL experience or NFL knowledge and really utilize that. But also too, I know there's plenty of us who are college football fans as well. So what we do this year for our one half of our league is for whoever wants to join, they are allowed to join in. And all it is for our particular one, it's just picking winners and losers of conference games for the top 25 and the Big 12 at this point. So taking a look at the top 9, there's only 9 of us this year. We hope to expand that at that point, because the other reason too, I get sidetracked, guys, so bear with me. A couple of people I know wanted to join in as well, and one of them actually did. So she's part of our college football pick'em at this point with it. But if you take a look at the top 9, we can see right now after week 2, with the rules in place that the 2 lowest weeks are dropped, Patrick is ahead of everybody with a 26-3 record at 25 points at this point. It should be 26 on that, not 25. Brittany is number 2 at 25-3 at 25 points. I am tied with Gavin in 3rd place with 24-4 at 24 points. Sarah is in 5th place, and I think it's based on the points dropped, but it's 24-4. Chad is 6th place, which is funny because last week he was 1st place with 23-5 with the 23 points. Basically, it goes to the 23s at this point. And then Frank, Kayla are at 7-8 with the 23-5. And then Andrew and Kari are 23-5 as well at the 23 points. We still have way more football to play, obviously. So there's obviously room for points for the people to get points as well as for weeks to get dropped. So we'll start seeing those people start pulling away, or as well as just have some happenstance mistakes, such as I know a lot of people didn't know what to pick for, say, like Iowa and Iowa State, for example, or everybody messed up on the Utah pick. There's plenty of opportunity for no matter what, if you're 1st place to drop all the way to 9th, or 9th place to drop or to gain all the way to 1st place. So that's the week 3 update going into this weekend at this point. And there's a lot of pick'em games at this point where they're not as easy as the first 2 weeks at this point. I think we only have one more week where truly there's going to be pretty much give me's, and that's kind of the SEC cupcake week, but that's not for at least another 7 more weeks. But again, nobody's out on it. It's still very, very close, because even that, if you take a look, it's only 3 points separating the bottom from the top at this point. It is anybody's pick them to win. So Gavin, since you're participating in that one, do you have any thoughts on this top 12 or top 9?
It's still way too early in the season at this point, so it's kind of really hard to get a good gauge. And also, with some of the teams and everything, we had a few good non-conference matchups, but it's kind of like a sort of a wait kind of a wait and see, if anything, because like I think the toughest matchup, and I think for me personally, from what I've seen, if it lately, was definitely that Georgia Clemson game, because
Mhm.
it could have been like gone either way if a few things would have gone sort of in a hit and miss direction. So I think that was probably one of the toughest games for me personally to pick. Even though I did pick correctly on it, it was still hard for me to like, sort of go against, Georgia at that point. So it's just kind of one of those things to where it kind of has like a little bit of factors, a little bit of luck, but also kind of like knowing your knowledge of like what the teams are expected to do, and new players that are coming in. Because
Absolutely.
unlike the NFL, you can get the same player that is around for 4, 5, 6 years. College, it changes drastically every 2, 3 years. In
If
the
that, even
Lance
weekly.
game, yeah, even weekly, yeah. So
Even
it's
weekly.
yeah, so it's kind of hard to kind of like really get a good gauge off, if anything. So you have to really like be up to date on all of that.
Yep, you're not wrong there. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and cut. And I'm 36 minutes in, but we're gonna get to the thing everybody from the league really, really wants to know is the Week 1 Red Dirt Sports Weekly Awards. So I'm going to try to share the very, very screen again with it because I'm still learning a little bit with StreamYard, like what to do with it, especially when I'm on one screen versus two screens. I think it's this one. Aha, there it is. All right. So what I'm wanting to do is I want to give everyone a very brief Week 1 recap for those watching at home. So if you see up above, this just differentiates things that are not pod games or conference games or division games. This just differentiates who's playing who at that point. So as you can see from it, we had a lot of games with it. Some of them close, some of them not at this point. Justin, obviously you did not win your game from it. What was your initial reaction from Week 1 for both yourself and for the league at this point?
Oh my God, it was so bad. I literally had to wait get like 4 new players, mostly because oh God, they didn't help.
What happened? Give me the story. What happened?
Well, it didn't really help that Tom Brady was being Tom Brady, and I got killed by DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. Gavin, what about you? This is the first time in a long time that you've won Week 1 for it. How were you feeling? Were you sweating any going against Andrew Week 1?
I was somewhat, but I also had Tyreek. I think, and please bear with me because I also have different other fantasy leagues as well. But
yeah,
I
here
think
you go. There's your team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had Tyreek Hill, which I knew he was going to ball out, if anything, because he's always has find a way to go out, especially with that 75-yard touchdown reception with Mahomes.
Yeah.
When he got that, I was like, all right. And then, of course, some of the others that were in there, Jacobs, he did somewhat decently, but he was not really someone himself. If anything, I felt like he could have gone a little better. The defense, I was like, why did I go against Dak Prescott? That was sort of my whole issue. It's like, I feel like the defense will be fine for Tampa Bay, but it's kind of hard, when you got Dak Prescott on the other side, who was basically just lighting it up.
Yeah.
So it's like, if anything, it's like, I feel like I could have gone a little bit better with the defense, but given it from an overall standpoint that it was Dak Prescott, I felt like I did pretty decently for the most part. I think, if anything, what really kind of scared me more than anything, and I have him on my other league as well, Jalen Hurts. He flat out balled against Atlanta. I mean, this is going to be a QB that you're going to have to watch, for the rest of the season, because I think he's going to be QB1 for quite a while, and he has the leadership and
absolutely. Which is funny, Justin, when you mentioned OU players. Hey, Jalen was an OU player for a year.
And he was also mostly at Alabama Saban's school, so yeah.
That's true. But he was also one of our QBs. So yeah. I do want to go backwards. I just want to give just kind of the brief recap too from game to game. So starting with my game, Patrick got an early lead against me Thursday night. But then once Sunday morning took place, I just started steamrolling Patrick, and there was just no looking back with it. I just kept going all the way. By Monday night, I still had Mark Andrews, and that game was well decided. Unfortunately for Patrick, as
Yeah,
Justin,
this
you
is-
mentioned, he had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Anybody who has Aaron Rodgers, oh, I feel bad for you guys right now. I absolutely feel bad. And not to mention, I went back too fast. He also had the Green Bay defense. Poor guy. Absolutely poor guy on this one. And he was really looking forward to this week at that point.
Well, they'll do better this week because the Green Bay's playing at home against the Lions. So they can win that game without Rodgers really trying that hard.
Oh, absolutely. He could sleepwalk through that one. As Gavin mentioned, he was neck and neck with Andrew. As in my notes, I had it. Andrew very much took a very early Sunday lead. And it just took Monday for Gavin to finally just smidge over Andrew before getting that victory. Hey, it was close. It was well within 10 points, but a win is a win. That's one of those things. You take that W as it's going to help you out later on. There's only so many games, guys, that you can play. And against very, very skilled players like Andrew or Frank, you got to take those wins every day of the week. The next one was a surprising one, as we all said, was Sarah versus Justin. Justin was predicted to win, but Sarah just started out strong and never looked back on starting on Thursday. When I was looking at the graphs, she just like bolted out there, and there was no comparison with it. It was that's just what happens sometimes in fantasy. Similarly, that's happened with Tyler and Kayla. He started off Thursday night with a pretty good lead, and it didn't look back, didn't dip under Kayla at all. Tyler just won that game. The final two games we had was the defending champions versus Brittany and her team, and he started out really well Sunday evening, but into the early afternoon, Brittany then she overtook him, and unfortunately, Joshua's last-minute surge, which I believe it was due to his Baltimore defense, just came up short. So, yeah, Baltimore defense. So he was not able to overcome Brittany, which I don't know what's worse, getting blown out by like 70 or 80 points or losing like a heartbreaker like by only a couple points. I don't know. I'm always one of those that decide. And then finally, and we'll go into the first weekly award on this one, Chad versus Frank. Chad, the meme team, dream team, gained its first win. For those of you who did not tune in for our draft night or our draft night recap, Chad picked in a team entirely revolved around, get this, a week 7 bye. He wanted all of his players to get a week 7. And I said, you know what? It's going to be absolutely funny if he wins the entire league. And gosh darn it, did he already win his first game. I said, if he wins, we're changing this to like the meme trophy at this point. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So that being said, they were also the winner of our first weekly award, which is the Winner Chicken Dinner Award, which goes to Chad. And that is the one who wins the game of the week. The reason I chose Chad's game as the game of the week is because when he drafted, since this year's theme is the villains theme, he drafted with a power ranking of 666, and Frank's power ranking was 777. I'm like, one of y'all have to win with this. So we're rolling with this game. And it just happened that Chad won that one. Though it was also funny, too, because if I recall, there was a number 1 versus a number 2 matchup. Yeah, it was Tyler versus Kayla. They had a number 1 versus number 2 as well. But hey, kudos to Chad. I'm going to put this up as the first one in our comments as I'm typing. So, 1 second. I'm going to see how this goes to Chad. Let's see if this will work. Ha! There it goes. That's awesome. So the Winner Chicken Dinner Award goes to Chad. Congratulations on your win, Chad, for week 1 and overcoming any odds with it. The next award that I usually give out is the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut Award is basically the MVP team of the week, who scored the most points and just basically dominated the first week. So the winner of the first week award of the Juggernaut goes to, it's weird for me to say it, but myself. I scored the most points out of everybody at that point. And the reason why I think I did really good on it is Russell Wilson is a boss. I've been wanting to get him in the league for like 3 years now. Every single time, somebody else takes him. Andrew took him last time. And I think, Gavin, you took him out 1 point too. Every single time, I cannot get Russell Wilson. I think because of that, I got Russell Wilson. So I guess for that one, congrats to me. So the next weekly award we have, before we give like a small little break for the moment, is the Coach of the Week. Coach of the Week goes to teams that are projected to lose but end up winning their games. So there were actually a tie this week for teams that were projected to lose again and won. So congratulations for the Coach of the Weeks that go to Sarah and Gavin. Both of y'all were projected to lose your games, and you actually came out pretty strong. In my notes, Sarah beat I can't find it. I didn't put it. I'm sorry. Sarah had it, and then Gavin, you were predicted, I think, in the midnight, or I think it was like 104, and you won it by one. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong on those. I know you had it. I know you won it. So I know you won it. So while I'm typing out these next awards, any thoughts for those first 3 awards, Gavin? Any immediate things?
All I can say is just, if anything, like I would just say, if anything, just it's gonna just be interesting, just kind of to see how the rest of the season is gonna play out. Because I know, going to be a lot of changes this week because, and I'm just saying this out to where if anybody else is watching this, but you're going to have to watch out for the Saints right now because they got a lot of players that are out because of COVID issues right now. And it's going to be right now sort of a mad scramble just to sort of like fill in and replacing those different players. It's going to be one of those things to where I would say, if you can find some decent players to help not really fill out that same talent, but sort of like help, somewhat similar numbers. So too, it's going to be really hard to find at this point.
Absolutely.
Because because they got like, Justin, you might know this. How many players did they have out? Like what, 5, 6 players right now that are out with COVID, or
which team?
The Saints.
Some around that. Then a lot of coaches too.
Yeah, so that I think is going to be very much a huge shift in everything to where I would suggest if you got any players that are on the Saints, you're going to have to definitely reconsider at this point.
Yeah, you're going to have to start watching. No different than the Cowboys. The Cowboys lost their defensive end today. Justin, do you have any thoughts for these first 3 awards for so far? Anything that makes you think or stand out?
Not at the top of my head.
Okay. So our next awards then will be the Belichick. This one has been around for forever and a day. The Belichick is the one where they exceed, if they win, and exceed like their points that are projected. And the winner this week that gets the Belichick goes to, drum roll, Sarah. Sarah's collecting a lot of awards tonight. Sarah exceeded the Belichick award, and I'm going to go to Sarah's game really fast.
That's what she kicked my ass, I think.
Yeah. So she was
boy.
projected to win 95-72 or lose to Justin, and then she won 120. It's got to be Brady and Hopkins. If you take a look at both of those, and her tight end.
She's lucky that the Titans don't have a secondary.
Absolutely. She definitely lucked out on that one. But he also got the 2-point conversion and 97 yards. That's ridiculous for a tight end. That's something I would expect from say Kittle or Mark Andrews. I'll be honest on that one. I was surprised. But hey, congrats to Sarah on that one for winning. The next one I'm going to go is I'm going to start taking it in order just a little bit. So the next award is called hold on. I'm typing this out. Is the route. The route is the biggest blowout. So obviously, usually that goes hand in hand with the Juggernaut. So I want to get it out of the way. The route goes to me this week because I beat Patrick by 42 points this week. So again, that's just how sometimes it happens. We've had it where people have lost 70 to 80 points. It happens. It sucks being on the other side of it, but not too much on that. So the next award after that is going to be the Game Changer. The Game Changer is the player who had the highest scoring player this week and won. So the Game Changer goes to, let me type it out. And I think I figured out what I'm going to do going forward next week, guys, is have a template so I can just copy and paste it over at this point. Because usually there would be programs where I could swipe it in. But unfortunately, because I don't have that, we're doing that. So let me type this in. Oh, I don't want to spell that name wrong. That would be bad. So the Game Changer award goes to Chad with Kyler Murray this week. Kyler scored 29 something points. It was ridiculous on it. guy earned his keep, because if y'all saw Kyler play on Sunday night, he had that highlight reel play where it's like he did the dashing back and forth and got so many yards just running. It's ridiculous how talented Kyler is.
Yeah,
So
there was actually one play where you remember the Joe Montana. What was the tight end's name that he threw for the catch against the Cowboys?
Dallas Clark or something.
Yeah, Dallas
Yeah.
Clark. Yeah, he had a play that was almost iconic to that.
Yeah,
it just looked really, really good. So,
gotcha. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So our next award is the Underachiever. The Underachiever basically is the award where you're projected, but you still win while under your projections. So we have a tie this week. It is to Tyler and Brittany. They both scored. They won their games, but they scored under their projections. For Tyler's, it was only a couple points. With the Brittany's, I think it was. Let me see. Yeah, so Tyler's he was projected at 113 and he scored 100.92. Brittany was projected at 104.06 and won 88.42. That's some luck. That is some luck on that one. I'm like, man, that's one of those two where you just hate being on the other side of it. So speaking of Tyler, I'm going to add goes to So the next one is a new award I introduced this year for teams that win. I call it the depth chart. Depth chart is looking at the bench and seeing basically what your points are. What are the highest bench total out of all the winners at this point? I mean, you could have replaced players in and it really wouldn't have mattered. And that goes to Tyler this week. He had 61.62 points left on the bench with it, and he still won with it. He had points to spare and points to spread around. So good job for Tyler at that point. Gavin, you mentioned Jalen Hurts this week, correct?
Yes.
Goes to. So it's funny that you mentioned Jalen Hurts, because the next award of this week goes with the player of heart is the highest scoring player in a losing team. So unlike Kyler Murray, who was with this, the player with heart goes to Andrew with Jalen Hurts at 28.76 points. He was the second highest scorer in the entire league too.
Yeah, I'm going to just say, a lot of people are going to underestimate Jalen this season. So, he's somebody to watch out for, because I don't think he's going to be MVP, but I can definitely tell that he is going to be bringing that new sort of life for that Philadelphia team, which has been struggling, ever since they've been off that Super Bowl high. So I think just having him as a new face is sort of like a new, fresh sense of air, if anything, some fresh air at least. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Right. So the next one, y'all are going to have to give me some context, guys. So the next award is a new award I introduced as well. It's called the Crisis Averted. It means the person did not put someone with a bad score into their starting lineup. Usually that would result in a negative. So for this week, the Crisis Averted goes to Andrew with Ramondre Stevenson with negative 0.9 points. He did not put him in his starting lineup. What happened with Ramondre this week, guys? You got to give me some insight.
Oh, I did not see that Patriots game, because I think that was sort of out of our viewing area. Justin, did you see anything about it?
I saw a little bit of it since we have NFL Red Zone.
Yeah, I don't know, but then again, it's like, I don't know where he is depth chart wise or anything, but I feel like, I think now this is just like week one, when you're going up against like second or third stringers at best, in the preseason, it's a lot different when you're going up against those top dogs in the first week. So I don't know. We'll just kind of see how it goes, but it's just going to be something to where you're just going to have to go through on a week by week cases. It's only week one as a rookie. So.
Gotcha. So then our next. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I don't know. And Justin, you can attest to this. Like, Justin Fields, he was only there for like 2 throws and 1 rush in that game that he had earlier as well with the Bears.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if anything, it's just sort of like where they're sort of like somewhat easing in, into some of these players as well before they get them as a quote official starter end quote.
Gotcha. So we only have a couple more awards left. I know there's about 15 awards that we go through, so I still wanted to highlight each of them. So the next award, Patrick just had the bad luck this week. The next award goes to Put Me In Coach, goes to Patrick with Jameis Winston at 29.62 points left on the bench. Poor guy went with Aaron Rodgers instead, and it wouldn't have made a difference against me because I still had almost like 15 to 20 points on him. But man, that's a bummer. That is an absolute bummer.
Well, given Winston's history of turnovers, I could see why.
Absolutely. Well, that also goes to hand in hand as well, if I can highlight it. There we go. Patrick, like I said, had a lot of the problems with it, and Winston was a lot of his points, but this also goes to the highest scoring bench, the replacement to Patrick, who left 77.92 points on the bench. Again, a lot of that was Jameis Winston at that point because you can only pick so many, So,
yep.
I may have to turn my mic on and off, guys, because it seems like it's not working at this point with it. So if you see me doing this, it's probably because I'm doing that and it's just having some wired issues.
Okay.
So just give me 1 sec.
All
right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So our next award after that is also poor Patrick. He also got the Goose Egg Award, which is the lowest scoring player in the starting lineup with the Packers defense at -4. That just falls on the Packers just in general that they got lit up by New Orleans. Oh my goodness, they got lit up. So got another award as well. So Brittany, on the other hand, has had the best luck out of everybody. So a win is a win is our award where you win a game and you're outscored by 3/4 of the entire league. Brittany was that one. She had the one team that she had to face to get a win, and it was Joshua's Primes. So Brittany, congratulations. You survived this week, and you get a win with it. In addition, not only did she survive, she also got the Hail Mary Award. The Hail Mary Award goes to the player or the team with the closest scoring. So not only did she have to beat Joshua Prime, she had barely just enough points to overscore him. She had a bad week that still resulted in a win. I wish I've had some good weeks, Any Justin, any awards that you've seen that are like pretty shocking so far? Like, that sounds about right.
I'm just baffled that the Put Me In Coach Award is a thing.
Why that?
I'm about to say that's a thing. That's like a gag award. That's like a kind of like a silly gag award. That's actually pretty funny.
Oh yeah, see, I've always tried to have little funny awards in there and little trash talk ones too, like the replacements or Put Me In Coach or a win is a win. Like it's like, well, it sucks, but I won. But I also have one more award to give out at this point. With it, and it goes to Mr. Joshua Prime. He probably doesn't want this award, but for the lowest scoring team this week, they get the crash and burn. It sucks being that team. I've been on the end of that team. It's not fun, but for every Juggernaut you do get a crash and burn. So that's all the awards I have this week. Any thoughts? Any final thoughts on those awards, Gavin?
None of it was really surprising, to be honest, if anything. And like I said, this week is going to be very, it's going to be always going to be varied from week to week. But I would say, if you have any part with the Packers right now, I would try maybe reconsider at this point with the way things are looking right now.
Yeah,
because that Packers team is going to be so much. And same with the Saints after they got 8 players out with COVID. It's going to be a nightmare for that. So I would say if you have any of those, definitely reconsider. And the same thing with like, you know, we might see a little bit different defense from Dallas this week since Lawrence is out for the rest of the season with foot injury.
Yeah.
This
Justin,
week on
yes, sir.
the Young and the Packerless. Okay, I'm sorry. What was that?
Oh, any shocks or anything for this week from the awards that you saw?
Nothing. Not really. No.
Gotcha. Are you happy that despite losing, you didn't get any of the funny like put me in coach awards or the crash and burn? You avoided those.
Yay.
Question mark. Gavin, what about you getting coach of the week along with Sarah?
Yeah, I think if anything, it'll be interesting to see going forward. But I think if we put both of us in a matchup, it's definitely going to be one of those to where it's going to be a win. There's a win award. If anything, I think that's how close it is right now.
Yeah. So now just kind of moving on to like what is our standings right now. I already switched it over to week 2, but right now our current standings in the league is number 1 is me. I am in the lead just because of a few points over Chad, which is like single digits. Number 2 is Chad. Number 3 is Sarah. Number 4, you are tied, Gavin. I think that's what it is. I think that's what I had. Yeah, I think so. That's power rankings. That's projections. Yeah. Gavin, you are number 4. And then number 5 is Tyler. Number 6 is Brittany. Number 7 is Frank. Number 8 is Andrew. Justin, you're at number 9. Kayla is number 10. Patrick is at number 11. And then Joshua Self is at number 12. So that's our first week rankings at this point. I think there's plenty of football to play. It's not surprising where those ranks and stuff ended up based on points at this point with it. There's no leagues or anything like that with it. In addition, something I really enjoy looking at, and I use a program for it, we also have a thing of who did the performances the best, regardless of where you ended up. Like, what was your projections? What did your players do? Like, we call those the power rankings. So number 1 this week with 100%, like, bro, what did fantastic was Chad. Number 2 at 97 points was me. Number 3 was Kayla at 96, which shouldn't be surprising. Kayla did really well in her match despite losing. Number 4 was Andrew at 93. Tyler was 93. Number 6 was Frank, also at 93. Number 7, Justin. Hey, you came in. You were 91 points. It was basically you still did a very, very solid effort with it. Sarah just had that position from, especially what was she came in at number 10. And that's, again, based on who she drafted and everything like that as well. So number 8 was Patrick at 91 points. Number 9 was Gavin at 91 points. Number 10 was Sarah at 87 points. Number 11 was Brittany at 87 points. And then number 12 was Joshua Prime at 87 points as well. Again, that's doing from week 1 to week 2 based on who you drafted, based on your performance with it. So don't take too much stock into the power rankings at that point because those can change. So, for example, Justin, right now you're at number 7. It's saying based on who you projected, you don't have a lot of points left. You're going to get 11. Who knows? You could be number 1. Nobody knows. Gavin, it's the same with yours. You're number 9. It's saying you're supposed to be number 6. For me, it says I'm number 2. I'm supposed to be number 7. So who knows? That's based on at the end of the season, though. Power rankings vary from week to week. And then, of course, right now we always get the projections just as in general. Right now, there's not a lot of data to work with. But if everything went according to plan, week 1 or projections would be number 1, Chad at 8-5. Number 2, me at 7-6. Number 3, Tyler at 7-6. Number 4, Gavin at 7-6. Number 5, Brittany at 7-6. Sarah at 7-6 at number 6. Number 7, Kayla at 6-7. Number 8, Andrew at 6-7. Number 9, Patrick at 6-7. Number 10, Frank at 6-7. Number 11, Joshua Prime at 6-7. And number 12, Justin at 5-8. Again, that is based on how you did this week and if it was repeated every single week at that point, based on who your opponents are. But again, stuff changes. We've discussed that so many times. The final thing I kind of wanted to go over before we kind of look into like the week 2 stuff for look ahead for like what y'all are looking for just for NFL and fantasy as well is just looking at the matches at this point or playoff odds. So if the playoffs were today, based on it, me and Chad would get the number 1 and the number 2 buys. Sarah would play Brittany, and Gavin, you would play Tyler.
That'd be interesting.
It was 2 day. We still have 12 more weeks of it, and you still have pod play. You still don't know. You could do 4 and 9 and still win your division. That's just how it works out with it because of pods. So that all ranked out, all the power rankings, all the awards from this week. Gavin, how do you feel after this week?
Feel pretty good this week, but like I said, you just got to take it 1 week at a time and just, understand who's playing who and basically understand what you're doing.
Gavin, is there any particular position that you're worried about now this week?
I think for me personally, I'm more worried with the running back situation because Jacobs right now is considered questionable, and like some of the other backs are pretty much well taken. So
let's go to your game really fast as you're saying that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the one question mark for me because I have where Jacobs is somewhat questionable.
Yeah, so he has a 3-star, is ankle sidelined. He's still expected to be available for Sunday's sluggish matchup against the Steelers.
And the Steelers has been, one of those teams to where it's always tough against, if anything. So.
Absolutely. And if you take a look, it's going to be a toss-up game. There's only 0.31 that's between you and Patrick. That's anybody's game at that point.
Yeah, so I think this one might be, and I'm just going to call it, it's going to be one of those games where I think a win is a win award in that game, if anything.
You think you're going to be one of the lower scoring teams this week?
Not really the lower scoring, but like one of the close margin.
The Hail Mary.
Yeah, going to be having like that Hail Mary, yeah.
Gotcha. Justin, what about you? You face me this week. How are you feeling this week based on last week?
When it comes to fantasy, who the hell knows?
Well, right now, you are favored against me by about 60 of a point at that point.
Well, I was favored by I had like a 63% probably last week. So how that turned out.
Is there any position you're worried about without telling me any strategy since we're both facing each other with it? Is there anything that you're looking at where you're like, I really do hope this player with it, but based on the team they're playing, kind of?
I gotta expect you to get at least 27 points with Russell Wilson alone because the Titans' defense is so bad.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm expecting you with Justin Herbert, to be honest, because Dallas's defense isn't that good, and especially with that defensive end out now.
Yeah, that's why I thought about switching to Stafford, but then when I heard DeMarcus Lawrence is out, I'll stay with Herbert because their defense is gonna be in shambles.
See, and what's funny, Justin, is the players I'm worried about, not just Herbert. For me, with you, I'm worried about Chubb because Chubb has the best schedule out of all the players this year, and I'm also worried about Kittle. You got some good players right there, and I'm really worried how they're going to go at that point. But yeah, I think we'll have a good matchup this week. So, looking ahead as well, do y'all have any final thoughts on looking ahead for week 2? So, what I will say is I took a look this week. And this week really separated out number 1s versus number 9s, all that. There's a very big, broad one. So I think this week's game of the week that I think that everyone should be on the watch out for is going to be, to me, Regina George Fan Club versus Green Goblin. So that's Brittany versus Sarah. Because looking at the rest of the matchups, there is no other matchup that has that has both the teams winning. Someone's going to be a 2-win team and probably take first or second place with it, assuming things fall into place correctly. So definitely the game to watch. And hey, that's going to give them a very early lead going on into week 3. Get everyone as you can. Right now, Brittany is favored, but as you saw last week, she was down by 20 points with it. Who knows if she can win this week? And look at her team. She does have Patrick Mahomes against Baltimore. Justin, do you think Mahomes is going to light up Baltimore's defense? Because I don't. I think he's going to be – I'm not going to say humbled, but I do think he's going to have some issues with Baltimore. Baltimore's defenses are always good.
Yeah, they usually are.
I also noticed that she has Patrick Mahomes and she has one of his running backs as well. I think that's a good combo because he throws to him as well. Gavin, do you see anything with the team of the week?
I mean, you pretty much said all that I needed to say. So,
Gotcha. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen then at this point. So last question for y'all, and I'll start with Justin. Anything you're looking forward to in the NFL this week? Any games?
Let me just pull up the schedule here, and I can tell you. Well, for one thing, I can tell you top of my head, the Thursday night game is disgusting. But let's see. That game being Giants and football team. But let's see what else we got here. I think Cowboys Chargers might be a fun little shootout going on there.
Oh, I got one that might be better to top you off, though, Justin. I'm looking forward to the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Ooh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, with Brittany, yeah, that's a good one. That'll be a good one. I think, man, I agree with y'all. The games this week are kind of, yeah. I do think though, I gotta go with Justin on this one. But yeah, but I also, man, it's gonna be. I think Tampa Bay versus Atlanta is gonna be good as well. I think Brady's gonna light him up, but I think it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I just got Tampa Bay winning on that one. So I just did not look. That Atlanta offense just does not look good right now.
Gotcha. All right then. Any final thoughts? Go ahead, Justin.
Is Nebraska not very good? I see y'all favored by 22 points.
No, the Browns.
No, I talk about Nebraska.
Nebraska.
No. Nebraska's terrible, man. Like,
yeah, they're bad.
I just look at lines.
What?
So they lost to Illinois.
Yeah. To get an idea, Justin, how bad Nebraska is right now, get this. Someone cracked a joke of name Scott Frost's best 15 wins over his past 5 years. He has only gotten 12. And Fordham, a team that nobody knows about, is one of those wins. He's just not good. He's just not good at Nebraska. No different than Jim Harbaugh is terrible at Michigan.
Oh, God.
See, and that's the thing. Harbaugh was good in the NFL, in a sense. I'm not going to say he was the best thing ever, but he could produce results. He still hasn't done that in Michigan. But, yeah, we're favored by 22, 23. I think my dad even said at one point it was 26. I think it's just OU has the talent, and it's going to be a complete mismatch on it because Nebraska doesn't have any talent in the depths at this point, and then trenches.
The only issue right now is just the effort on defense, and that's about it.
Yeah, but you saw that get fixed up about in the last game as well with it because when they were on the field with it, they had a mission.
Even if it was an FCS team, it's different when you have different caliber players.
Exactly.
Let's just face it. Western Carolina is not on the same level. And in fact, I think they only had a few wins in the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
So they were kind of even worse than Kansas.
Yeah, even then, though, with it, I know Nebraska's a Power 5 team. Man, Nebraska, I'd bet the house on that one with OU. What are you looking at, Justin?
Ole Miss is only a 14-point favorite over Tulane.
With Ole Miss, yeah. Tulane's a much better team than Ole Miss is, yeah.
No, we actually was. I don't know if you even saw this OU Tulane game, but Tulane lost by only 5 points against Oklahoma at Norman.
So, do y'all give credit to a Tulane that game, or are y'all just screwing around?
Both.
It's a little bit of both, yeah.
It's both because with Tulane, they are much, much, much better than what people are giving them credit for. This is a team that's basically what I would say the full of senior team. It is a very talented team, but OU was very, very. There's a lot you could say about it in about 30-minute span, but for the defense, our defensive coordinator kept rotating guys, so they never got into a gel and a groove. And they thought the game was over at halftime when we were ahead by 20-something points. So they started untaping. They were eating hot dogs on the side. There was no discipline on the side with the defense. The offense was very limited because we had several guys out on the O-line, and they're usually rotating those first games who they want for the rest of the year. So we couldn't get the run game going either because all of our starters, except for 2, are out for stupid reasons at this point, meaning they're off the team or they transferred. We are down to 2 scholarship running backs. We're in desperate help of running backs, which means he was going to be slinging it. And our quarterback, I say this as he played an average game, but it was not his best game. mind you, he threw for 300 yards and had a touchdown, but he made some really bad interception throws with it. He had one where he just forced it, and another one wasn't his fault. It was a comedy of errors, but OU was happy to escape out of that game at that point. But Tulane came prepared. They wanted to play that game. So, what are you seeing, Justin? I see you see a game on there.
Yeah, Cincinnati only a 4-point favorite over Indiana.
Indiana's sneaky good.
They are sneaky good, to be fair.
Yeah, they're very, very sneaky. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sneaky good. And then Alabama plays Florida this week. Alabama's going to steamroll Florida.
Yeah, even though it's a 14-point favorite, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the one thing, and I'm just going to say this. I mean, even though they did play against Miami, I am very interested to see how Bryce Young can handle it, being at a true road game, because this is going to be his first true road game in the swamp. So I just think, if anything, I would keep an eye and making sure we'll see what kind of decisions that he makes. I mean, even though he did well against Miami and against Mercer and all that and everything else too, it's another deal to do it where you're actually like at a true road environment where everybody's against you.
Yeah, he's still gonna steamroll though. He's still gonna steamroll.
I know. I'm just saying. If anything, it's any given week, and it's going to be something to watch out for. But anyway, I gotta head on now, and you guys take care. See ya.
That's fine. See ya, Gavin. See ya Sunday.
Okay.
See ya, Gavin.
Bye, buddy. All right, Justin. Any final thoughts? I'm going to wrap it up too.
Nothing really. As usual, thanks for having me on, and thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, of course. You're the co-host on the Fantasy Football. I always enjoy hearing your opinion on the NFL. You are very, very knowledgeable on the NFL stuff because I'm such a college-oriented person. I'm like, I don't really know what they do unless I hear like the OU stuff. So like CD, I heard he didn't do well because he couldn't catch the ball, but I couldn't tell you on the other teams or anything like that. So I appreciate your knowledge. Yeah,
who else is good this year in the Big 12 besides y'all?
You're funny. There's not. Here's the problem. OU is just leagues and above everybody, and I can take my hat off saying that. Like, there's no one that's close to OU. Your next one up, Oklahoma State's really bad. They almost lost to Tulsa, who's like an 0-2 bad team. So bad that Oklahoma State got the student section was booing their own quarterback and wanting him removed. And he's a redshirt junior. Like, he knows better, but it's bad. Kansas State, they were going to be a sneaky good team, but the guy that was giving us fits, he got injured, so he's going to be out for a while. And I think this is like his third injury. Baylor is doing fine, but they've only played like little know-nothing teams, essentially, the little community college teams. So, of course, they're going to roll them like 60 points. West Virginia, I haven't really paid attention to West Virginia, but they also have new coach, and it's still like almost rebuilding. West Virginia just hasn't been good over the past couple of years. Texas lost to Arkansas. They've got problems on their O-line. Texas ain't back. Texas is not back.
Why do they keep saying that? Why do they keep saying that they're back when they're clearly not?
Because it's a meme at this point. Because they want them to be back because it's good for college if Texas is back. It's like if Alabama or Nebraska are back at the same time. Like, it's good for viewership or things like that. But yeah, who am I missing? Kansas is Kansas. Self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Iowa State has problems because they only won 6 points against Northern Iowa, who's it's just not a good team. And then they got dominated by Iowa. Iowa stepped on them and made a point of it. And Iowa State, I think they're going to be a top 20 team, but which is really bad for that team if you consider that they have 20 returning starters. It got so bad that their senior quarterback was benched in the fourth quarter because I believe, if I remember the line correctly, he threw 4 interceptions. Dude had a terrible stat line. So OU, OSU, Kansas State, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas. Tech, I think, is going to be a 6-6 team. They're barely scraping by teams. They only won, I think, by a couple points against like Stephen F. Austin, which is, again, like a community college. TCU, they are doing solid. They're doing fine with it. They beat Cal. To me, they're going to be the dark horse. That's going to be the team to watch out for, and looks like they're going to be the team to improve. And then I feel like I'm missing one. OU, OSU, Kansas State, West Virginia, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU. Nope, that's it. I covered everybody. So problem is none of those guys, if you took it on paper, can compete against OU talent-wise. They just can't. There's nothing, unless there's some disaster or they exploit it like an area in OU stuff, there's just no reason why OU would lose any of those games with it. That's just how it is right now. It's basically the equivalent of facing Alabama in the SEC. There's no reason Bama should drop any game.
Is that the reason? Is that why y'all they're trying to get into the SEC now?
That's another story with it. That's problems with the Big 12 that's persisted since about 10 to 12 years ago. And there's a point for them where it's like with OU, when you want to leave the conference because like you keep getting 11 a.m. kicks. It's not about the 11 a.m. part. Yes, 11 a.m. sucks, but I always put it in the big picture. OU's your breadwinner of the conference alongside Texas. Whether Texas is good or not, they bring money to the conference. You want to give your top program a primetime game. Like, we face West Virginia in 2 weeks at primetime. Get this, we haven't faced West Virginia in primetime in 7 or 8 years for it, because they keep putting them out at 11 a.m. Our games are always the 11 a.m. games with it, because they keep trying to push the big games at noon. It doesn't work. No one likes big noon kickoff at this point. But so there's that. Here's the flip side of it as well. And this falls more into Gavin's expertise with it. The big problem with the 11 a.m. kicks is half of it is that affects the economy of the local college campus. So, like, we get a lot of money because of people going to Campus Corner, people going around, people purchasing stuff. At 11 a.m. games, people don't do that because the bars aren't open. The food's not ready. Like, that's 2 o'clock stuff. And then by that time, people want to go home. But more importantly, OU's recruiting at a very high level. Recruits can't get out there at 11 a.m. because they're playing Friday night. Like, unless they're in a local area, you can't expect a kid from, say, Washington, if we were recruiting up there, to fly in after his game. So it hurts us. And when we explained that to Fox, and that, they basically said, well, it doesn't matter. You know what you signed up for. Well, no, this isn't what we signed up for, because Big Noon did not exist at this time. And the big problem, too, is they don't want to compete against ESPN or CBS. They're scared. They are legitimately scared of College Game Day and ABC.
Yeah. Dude, didn't like the Red River game last year wasn't that also 11 a.m. game?
Yeah, but that one's a tradition for that one. We don't. The reason for that one is it falls under two. It's either going to be an 11 a.m. or a 2:30 kick. Everybody likes the 2:30 kick because they get their drinking and everything in for it. I'm not a drinker, so it doesn't matter for me. 11 a.m.'s the traditional one because on the East Coast, it's high noon.
Right.
Since it was the Red River shootout with it. And the other part of it is they will never play that game at night, because I don't know if you visited the Texas State Fair at any time. It's not that the fair itself is unsafe, but once you hit dark, it's in probably one of the sketchiest parts of Dallas. Like, you can see like dilapidated houses from the stadium at that point if you're in the nosebleed sections. People just don't like it because they've been mugged. They've been hurt at it. That game will never be at night. And when they tried to talk about that for like a couple years back, both OU and Texas went, no, we're not making this a night game. And the players wanted a night game too. And they're like, no, that's not happening, guys. Sorry. So, but yeah, that's a tradition one. But the rest of them, though, it's like share the wealth, essentially. Like, we can excuse West Virginia not having 11 a.m. because they're on the East Coast. Our 11 a.m. is their new. That's understandable. But for us who's like the one bringing the money into the conference, who's bringing the championships in, who's bringing like the revenue, the prestige on it, not just with football, but with like softball and basketball and things like that, you'd expect them to at least give us a bone, especially for like OU Nebraska. And they laughed it off, and OU's just kind of tired with it. The other part too is OU and Texas have tried their best to make the conference sustainable. The problem with it is the other schools voted against it. They wanted a short-term game so they can improve their facilities, so like Baylor or Oklahoma State, instead of long-term stability with it, which caused the conference to be what it is right now. They don't want long-term stability until they're forced to. So that's kind of there's way more issues with it altogether, but that's kind of the nutshell of like why OU is upset, and they have legitimate reasons to be upset with it. It's affecting them like their business with it, because at the end of the day, football is a business. They're not getting their revenue for it. They're not getting their recruits. It's not putting them in the positions to win for it, or at least treating everybody fairly with like 11 a.m. kicks and things like that.
Okay.
So it's I know the running joke is OU just doesn't want to play 11 a.m. kicks. It's not bad. It's we're tired of being the one always assigned to the 11 a.m. kicks for it, among other things at that point with it. And recruiting's the biggest one. We've had several, like, for example, Justin, would you ever put OU Nebraska at 11 a.m. when it's what it is now, not a conference game?
Not really.
So then why would some intern do that at Fox? Because they think noon's a thing and it's not. So, but it affects recruiting. We can't bring in our stuff. And that's what made Joe C upset, was because he's been playing this for like 12 years. Like, I think it was 12 years ago when this game was announced. And this is kind of, it's bigger than the game itself because it's a celebration of the series. Because not to get morbid about it, the truth is a lot of those guys, this is kind of their last hurrah. Like, this is the kind of the family reunion at this point, because they don't know what's going to happen. A lot of these guys are old at this point. They could be gone because of COVID. It could be a car wreck. Who knows? This is kind of that last kind of gathering point for it. And it very much is a slap in the face for Fox to not realize like the history behind it, you know? So much so I do have to laugh at our athletic director, because last week they had their pay-per-view game, and I used to work at Sooner Vision, so I worked in the athletic department, and the outside lights take several hours to like kind of warm up and really get to the point where they're able to be bright for the field. Well, one of them wasn't working, and they're like, Joe, at halftime, is there any reason why the lights don't seem to be working or anything right now? Do you think it's a wiring issue? Do you think the stadium's old? What do you think, Joe? And he's like, well, we would know about these issues more if we didn't have all these 11 a.m. kickoffs. But as we do, I'm like, throwing some shade at the Big 12 and Fox. And as a buddy of mine said, he was just like, he don't care. He's leaving for the SEC. He can say whatever the heck he wants. What's the Big 12 going to do? Absolutely great.
Slipping in a little bit of sass. Rocky would be proud.
Oh, absolutely. He's going full on petty, and I am all here for this. Like, Joe C is a very polite person. I have met him. He's a great guy, but they've pushed his buttons one too many times. So Joe C cracks me up with it. So that being said, Justin, I think we're good at this point. So you're going to be on next week?
Yep.
Sweet. Well, then at this point, then I want to thank everybody, all of our league, if they joined in and watched a little bit, heard all of our fun stories, and heard about some post-game college stuff at this point. Justin, thank you again for joining tonight. I always enjoy having a co-host on. I always enjoy your NFL expertise. I will see you next week, and good luck against me this week.
Yeah. May the best fantasy football head win.
Absolutely. One of us is going to be happy, and one of us are going to be sad at the next live stream next week.
Yeah, this is going to hurt, isn't it?
Who knows? You could whip my butt and I lose by 50 points. Who knows? We'll see. All right, buddy. I'm going to let you go, and I will see you next week. And thank you all for tuning in.
All right. See you.